अंतकोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। नामाचार्य श्रीला हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद जय। द्वैत गदाधर शिवसादि गौर भक्तनंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय। वृंदावन धाम की जय। मायापुर धाम की जय। जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय। गंगा माई की जय। यमुना माई की जय। तुलसी देवी की जय। संवेद भक्त वृंद की जय। निताई गौ प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasad Bhutale Srimati Gopal Krishna Goswami Niti Namani Prabhupadasya Saitam Ya Prakasam Racha Pracharam Katvam Sadhu Bhagavad Tena. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye. Nashtraprayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtaki. Hare Krishna. We are continuing with Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 12, The Age of Deterioration, Chapter number 10, Lord Shiva and Uma glorify Markandeya Rishi, text number 28. Shri Markandeya Vacha Aho Ishvara Leelayam Durvi Bhavya Sharirinam Yanamanti Sthvani Stuvanti Jagat Ishvaraha. Translation and quoted by disciples of Srila Prabhupada. Sri Markandeya said, "It is indeed most difficult for embodied souls to understand the pastimes of the universal controllers, for such lords bow down to and offer praise to the very living beings they rule." Purport. In the material world, conditioned souls strive to lord it over one another. Therefore, they cannot understand the pastimes of the actual lords of the universe. Such bona fide lords have a wonderfully magnanimous mentality and thus sometimes bow down to the most qualified and saintly among their own subjects. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmetam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So we have seen so far the pastime of Markandeya Rishi. We have heard about the purity, his pure devotional service. We heard how Lord Shiva entered into his heart and given darshan. Because Markandeya Rishi was so much in trance in thinking about the Lord that he didn't even realize that Lord Shiva and Uma are right in front of him. So Lord Shiva had to go inside his heart and make him aware of his presence. And once Markandeya Rishi realized that, he immediately started offering his obeisances, worshipped him, offered him prayers, offered obeisances. And Lord Shiva told him, "You can ask any benediction." He said, "No, I've had your darshan, I don't need anything more." But Lord Shiva insisted, and here we can see Markandeya Rishi, he's glorifying again. And he's talking about us, that it is most difficult for conditioned souls like us, to understand the pastimes of Krishna. Srila Prabhupada has explained to us that if we really want to understand Krishna, then we need to worship with love and devotion our spiritual master, the Parampara, and Lord Krishna. It's only by Guru and Krishna's mercy that we can understand Krishna, that we can understand Bhagavad Gita, that we can understand Srimad Bhagavatam. So here we can see he is relating to us. We are embodied. We are embodied in this body. We are in this body. We are embodied. And it's difficult. Not only difficult, he says most difficult to understand. Or not only the pastimes of Krishna, but also the pastimes of the universal controllers. Markandeya Rishi is referring to Lord Shiva. Prabhupada mentions, even in this verse, it says Ishvara, right? Ishvara of the great lords. Prabhupada has explained in his purports that sometimes Narad Muni, Brahma, Shiva, they are all referred to as Lord, as Ishvara, right? But we know the supreme Ishvara, Param Ishvara is Lord Krishna. So he says, because such lords like Lord Shiva, they bow down and offer praise to the very living beings they rule. How merciful they are, right? So merciful. And in the purport it says, conditioned souls strive to lord it over one another. That is actually a very old habit. We are conditioned to lord over others. The moment we see one living entity, we see and we say, how can I control him? It's ingrained in us. That is our consciousness. Even unconsciously, without even realizing it, we just start lording over others. And we need to get rid of this mentality of lording it over. Prabhupada says, because we wanted to lord it over Lord Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan, that's why we've come down into this material world. So we can understand how very grave that situation is of lording it over. Unless we give up this habit of lording it over, unless we stop controlling others, unless we stop enforcing our desires on others. We want others to live according to our desires, according to how we want them to live. Why? We are just supposed to think about our bodies, not to lord over other bodies. Everyone has come with a an account of karma, a balance of karma, and everyone is facing their own karma. Why are we trying to lord it over them? Right? We're trying to enforce. I want you to talk like this. I want you to sit like this. I want you to do this. No, that mentality we have to give up, because here in the purport it's said that we strive to lord it over one another, and that is where all the problems come. What happens? We enforce our desires are not fulfilled, then we get upset. I have even seen, even in preaching, even in spiritual life, we want to lord it over other devotees. We want them to preach like we want them to preach. We want them to, do this, and this, because that is what we think is the right thing to do. No. We have to understand, we cannot understand Krishna or his pastimes or pastimes of the universal controllers. We cannot understand that. For that, we need humility. We need to accept our karma. I was listening to this beautiful lecture where they mentioned that we should understand that others are only instruments of our karma. They are not the ones who are causing us distress. They are just an instrument. If it is not Mr. or Miss X, then it is going to be Mr. or Miss Y. It could be anyone else. They are just instruments. We are facing our own karma. And here it says in this verse that for such lords bow down to and offer praise to the very living beings that they rule. See, they are bowing down to the saintly, they are bowing down to those who are qualified, right? And we see in the next verse it says that generally it is to induce embodied souls to accept religious principles, right? Religious principles are very important. We should not take it casually. Unfortunately, sometimes we see, of course, most of the times we see before initiation, but sometimes we see after initiation also, some devotees do not follow regulative principles strictly. As soon as we become aware, as soon as we have got the knowledge of religious principles, immediately we should start following them. We know the four regulative principles, right? No meat eating, fish, eggs, onion, garlic, no intoxication, tea, coffee, no illicit sex, and no gambling. These are, if we do not follow these four regulative principles strictly, how can we build our spiritual life? How can we progress in spiritual life? That's not possible. And here it says that to induce embodied souls to accept religious principles, that the authorized teachers of religion exhibit ideal behavior while encouraging and praising the proper behavior of others. What do we learn from this? This is something we can apply, in our day-to-day life, and that will help us even in preaching. What is it? To praise, to encourage behavior of others, which means we follow what Srila Prabhupada says, to magnify our own faults and magnify the good qualities of others. That is how we can develop humility, because that will make us realize, oh, I am such a fallen soul. I am, and look at that other devotee. So beautifully that devotee is progressing. That devotee, look at the good qualities of that devotee. This is how we can try and also improve our spiritual life. In verse 30, he says, this apparent humility is simply a show of mercy. Such behavior of the Supreme Lord and his personal associates, which the Lord affects by his own bewildering potency, does not spoil his power any more than a magician's powers are diminished by his exhibition of tricks. See? And in 31 it says, I offer my obeisances to that Supreme Personality of Godhead who has created this entire universe simply by his desire and then entered into it as a supersoul. By making the modes of nature act, he seems to be the direct creator of this world, just as a dreamer seems to be acting within his dream. He is the owner and ultimate controller of the three modes of nature, yet he remains alone and pure without any equal. He is the supreme spiritual master of all, the original personal form of the absolute truth. We've heard all this in the Bhagavad Gita, right? It's been repeated again and again. Why? So that we can understand and we can um, think about the position of the Supreme Lord. He is the controller. He is the super soul within every living entity. He's the creator. He's the owner. He's the supreme spiritual master. He's the absolute truth. Bhagavad Gita has explained to us how just by glancing at material nature, he creates, right? And that is based on his will. On Wednesday, when I was taking the Bhagavad Gita class, in that so many times Krishna's will was talked about. His will, his will. So here also we see only when Krishna desires, when his will is there, then the creation takes place. You see? And Markandeya Rishi, he tells Lord Shiva, I have seen you. What more can I want? Right? When supposing we have the opportunity to see Krishna face to face, what more do we want? We've reached the highest perfection. We don't need anything else. And Markandeya Rishi, being on that pure state of Krishna consciousness, he realized that he said, what more can I want? All desires are fulfilled and everything imaginable can be achieved just by a darshan. This is what Markandeya Rishi is telling Lord Shiva. But he says, but I request one benediction. You see, Lord Shiva has offered a benediction and now Markandeya Rishi wants that benediction. What do you think will be the benediction? A pure devotee will only ask for devotion. So he asked for unfailing devotion to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Not only that, he didn't stop there. He even said, and unfailing devotion to Krishna's devotees, especially you, Lord Shiva. You see the importance? That is what even Prabhupada has taught us. That when we say, I am servant of Krishna, I am not a servant of Krishna. When I say I am the servant of the servant of the servant of Lord Krishna, that is when Krishna recognizes our devotion, right? So here Markandeya Rishi, he not only wants unfailing devotion to Krishna, but also to Krishna's devotees. He's asking for devotion, not just service, devotion, which means he wants to worship the devotees of the Supreme Lord. So we must try and understand that it's not just our relationship with Krishna that is important. Even our relationship with Krishna's devotees is very important. Unless we develop that devotional attitude amongst ourselves, amongst the devotees, unless we do that, how can we develop love for Krishna? How is that possible, right? So, because here Markandeya Rishi is saying, especially you, which means Lord Shiva, that means he realizes that Lord Shiva is also a devotee of Krishna, and Lord Shiva is not the Supreme Lord himself, right? He knows that he is a representative of Krishna, you know, and sometimes the representative of Krishna is also addressed as God. But we all know, right? Lord Shiva is the topmost Vaishnava. He's the eternal servant of Krishna. We know that. We have heard about it. And Markandeya Rishi's, his desire is so relevant, so pure. He just wants pure devotional service. So that desire is so beautiful. The desire to have pure, unfailing devotion to Krishna and his devotees. Now, based on our consciousness, we desire, right? And the desire is within the heart, within the mind, and only pure desire to engage in devotional service can bring one to that exalted platform. And to come to that exalted platform, we need the mercy of Guru and Krishna and Krishna's devotees. You see, why is it? I remember in Juhu Temple when we were staying in Mumbai, I used to see that there was one devotee. Whenever he would see my husband, he would rush to catch his feet, and then they both would struggle not to catch, let them catch. Like my husband would try to catch his feet, he would try to catch his feet, and they both would try and avoid doing that. And I used to wonder why. This is the reason. To somehow or the other, what is that word? Somehow or the other, to have that consciousness that it's not just worshipping Krishna, but also having that unfailing devotion towards Krishna's devotees also. Very, very important, right? And why is it even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, right? He talks about being very careful about not blaspheming devotees. One of the 10 of 11 offenses in chanting the holy names is to blaspheme the devotees who have dedicated their lives in propagating Krishna consciousness, right? Very, very importance is given not to blaspheme. Why? Because it can ruin our creeper of devotion. Why blame others for our karma, right? Just accept our own karma. Yes, if the body is suffering, the mind is suffering, or the family is suffering, or whatever it is our karma. Others who are around us, they are just an instrument to give us the reactions of our own karma. You know what people generally do? right in the present moment. They are living in present, but they are worrying. They are not worrying. They are lamenting about the past. Oh, that happened. That one did this. This one happened. And that, and this misery. We're just wasting our time lamenting about the past. Get over it. It is gone. Not only that, in present, we are worrying about the future. Why are we worrying about the future and lamenting about past and forgetting the present? Right now, we have the opportunity to increase our devotion towards Krishna and his devotees, to increase to become pure devotees, to chant attentively, to read, to associate, to hear. This is the time at present for us to do that so that we can improve our future. Then there is no need to worry about the future. And there is no need to lament about the past because there's nothing we can do about it. It's gone. We cannot change it. So here we see Sutta Goswami, he is telling that Lord Shiva was worshipped and glorified by Markandeya Rishi. And now Lord Shiva is replying to Markandeya Rishi. And we will see from verse 36 onwards, what does he say? O great sage, because you are devoted to Lord Adhokshaja, all your desires will be fulfilled. Until the very end of this creation cycle, you will enjoy pious fame and freedom from old age and death. How many of us want freedom from old age and death? I'm already old, but you all are progressing towards old age, right? Gradually, year after year, you are progressing and getting more and more old, right? And death is imminent. It has to come. And here, Markandeya Rishi is getting a benediction. What is that? He will get freedom from old age and death. That is what Krishna promises in Bhagavad Gita, right? Janma karma chame divyam evam yo vedi tatvataha tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti so Arjuna. See, there will be no more birth and death. O Brahmana, may you have perfect knowledge of past, present, and future, along with transcendental realization of the Supreme, enriched by renunciation. You have the brilliance of an ideal Brahmana, and thus may you achieve the post of spiritual master of the Puranas. Sutta Goswami said. Having thus granted Markandeya Rishi benedictions, Lord Shiva went on his way, continuing to describe to Goddess Devi the accomplishments of the sage and the direct exhibition of the Lord's illusory power that he had experienced. You see, what do we learn from this? That Lord Shiva, being one of the controllers, is continuing to describe Markandeya Rishi's accomplishments. You see, that is also one way we can worship devotees of the Lord. I'm not saying worship them like the Supreme Lord, but have that consciousness that yes, Supreme Lord is very, very important, but his devotees also are important, right? Markandeya Rishi, the best of the descendants of Bhrigu, is glorious because of his achievement of perfection in mystic yoga. Even today, he travels about this world, fully absorbed in unalloyed devotion for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I have thus narrated to you the activities of the highly intelligent sage Markandeya, especially how he experienced the amazing power of the Supreme Lord's illusory energy. Although this event was unique and unprecedented, some unintelligent persons compare it to the cycle of illusory material existence the Supreme Lord has created for the conditioned souls, an endless cycle that has been continuing since time immemorial. You see, in the purport, there's nice explanation given about this verse. Markandeya is being drawn into the Lord's body by his inhalation and expelled again by his exhalation should not be considered a symbolic description of the perennial cycles of material creation and annihilation. You see, Here they're talking about the partial and complete annihilation that takes place during the Lord Brahma's night and during Lord Brahma's completion of 100 years. It is not the same. This portion of the Srimad Bhagavatam describes a real historical event experienced by a great devotee of the Lord, and those trying to relegate the story to mere symbolic allegory are here declared to be unintelligent fools. O best of the Bhrigus, this account concerning Markandeya Rishi conveys the transcendental potency of the Supreme Lord. Anyone who properly narrates or hears it will never again undergo material existence, which is based on the desire to perform fruitive activities. How beautiful it is, right? So here we can see that beautiful pastime of Krishna's devotee Markandeya Rishi. And also by the example of Markandeya Rishi, we can see how we can become a pure devotee. Hari Bhakti, Hari Prasad, Hari Nam. Simple as that. What is it? Hari Bhakti, Hari Prasad, Hari Nam. That's it. See, holy name is very important. Just think about this. We relate to our name so precisely, right? If no matter what we are doing or where we are, if someone addresses us by our name, like someone says Geeta, immediately boom, my attention already goes. Who is it? Who is calling me? Who is it who is called my name? We relate so much to relate to our own name. So imagine, why are we not relating like that to the holy name? When we say Hare Krishna, oh Krishna, Hare Rama, why not be present at the time of chanting? Be so attentive and relate. In fact, just like we spend quality and quantity time with ourselves, we should spend quality and quantity time with the holy name, with the Supreme Lord. Prabhupada has explained there is no difference between Krishna and his holy name. So when we are chanting, we are calling out to the Lord, we are addressing him, we are asking him to spend quality time with us. So it behooves us that we also spend quality time with him. It's like we call Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, and then forget that he is there. And then we start, our mind starts going, what is it that comes between the tongue and the ear? It's the mind. Before we can even hear the sound vibration, the mind says, let's go on a world tour, let's go here, let's go there, let's do this. Oh, there's so much work today, and the whole list starts coming in our mind. What about the presence of the Lord? He is there in his holy name, right? Just like supposing someone wants to get intoxicated, what do they have to do? They just have to start drinking. Automatically they'll get intoxicated, right? So similarly, if we want to get bhakti, what do? We just perform bhakti. And bhakti starts with chanting, hearing, remembering, associating, preaching, reading. All these are different aspects of Bhakti Yoga. So here we can see that Markandeya Rishi, being the pure soul, was benedicted by Lord Shiva. First of all, he had darshan of Lord Shiva and Uma and their associates. And then he also received those benedictions. So we can learn from this pastime of Lord Krishna's pure devotee, Markandeya Rishi, and how to become a pure devotee. So I'm going to end here. If anyone has any questions, we have concluded the chapter today.
Yes, Mataji, I have.
Oh, sorry. You want to go ahead, Prabhuji?
Yes, Mataji. So, Mataji, as you mentioned in the class, that our desires is actually, I have, let me split in the two questions. The one is, just now you mentioned that Hari Bhakti, Hari Prasad, and Hari Nam, right? So entire reading of the Shastras and the Bhagavad Gita, So our whole purpose of that Bhagavad Gita to understand Krishna, right? To understand his name, and do the bhakti. So the purpose of this is to chant his name very correctly, which you mentioned that one, right? So when we chant and our mind and our words are not related, we go all the places. Can you please explain what is the best way? I know it's a very beginner kind of question. What is the best way of chanting his name? Because we all are like more than like 10 plus years people are in this group now, so everyone has their own different kind of a style. Please explain very briefly that what is the best way of chanting the name, jumping the mala, that kind of thing, Mataji. How? Because someone vibrate very slowly, they hear by themselves, but someone very loudly, someone walking. What is the best way from your perspective, Mataji?
Very nice. I was listening to one lecture of Guru Maharaj, I think it was yesterday or day before, and he was saying that when we chant, chanting is an alone time with Krishna. That is a time we get every day to have a connection and have a relationship with the Supreme Lord through His holy name. So we should not do anything else at that time. There should be no walking, nothing, because we can get distracted. We have to only chant. And I have heard many times that if we can find a sacred place to sit down, a quiet place to sit down, and we should try and chant early in the morning in the Brahma Muhurta, because that is a mode of goodness. And of course, in the beginning, even now, the mind will go, but Prabhupada says we have to bring the mind back. As soon as we see the mind, which means we have to be conscious of not only chanting clearly, like Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, very, very clearly. It should be like Kish Kish Kish, Nam Ram Ram Ram, Kish Kish. No, not like that. We are not catching a train that we have to. I know, devotees generally have that burden on their chest. 16 rounds, I have to finish 16 rounds. If it's going to take me 2 hours, 2 hours of my time. Krishna has given us 24 hours. What's a big deal if we give quality time to Him 2 hours every day? So don't do anything while chanting, anything at all. It depends, it should not be too fast that we cannot understand each word. Hare Krishna, Hare Rama. We should be able to hear that very clearly. And it should not be very slow, because if it is very slow, then two things will happen. One, the mind will ghusafa inside. Mind is going to come inside because we are very slow. And second thing is, it's going to take a very long time. And then the mind will say, oh, you're spending too much time on chanting, chanting, chanting. Forget it. So we have to have a balance. It has to be early in the morning, has to be not doing anything else when we are chanting, nothing else. Everything else can wait. Once the 16 rounds are over, then if we want to do something else and chant, that is okay. So this clarity is very, very important, and it should be loud enough to be able to hear those sound vibrations, but not disturb others if there are other devotees around who are also chanting, because then there could be a mix up, their Hare Krishna and our Hare Rama, and then it's like, so try and find a place where it's called a sacred place where we can sit down and we can chant our rounds. Okay.
Thank you, Mataji. So the next part of this is after practicing, like reading and this, our desire to control other people or expectation is too much. How to reduce? How to focus on that one, so that first of all, I don't have to think about that. That desire should not come into our mind. How to clean up that piece?
Yes, Guru Maharaj explains that, in fact, I think I was reading a quote recently where he says that we can do that by attentive chanting. When we chant attentively, the heart starts getting purified. Then all these desires of controlling others starts to vanish, because we start to become humble. First of all, we have to accept the fact that we are controllers. That is the first thing, right? Like for instance, if I have some disease, unless I accept it, I'm not going to go to the doctor and I'm not going to take the medication. So that acceptance is very important, that yes, I have that controlling nature and I need to get rid of that controlling nature, because each living entity is an individual who has come with their own baggage of karma, and they are just an instrument for my karma. So that mentality will gradually reduce and then go away by attentive chanting. Right now, our hearts are not pure. We have all that gunk inside the heart, which is like stopping us. So by attentive chanting, Prabhupada also says the key is attentive chanting for everything. Okay.
One, yeah, well, thank you, Mataji. One last question. Why is very difficult to accept the mistakes or apologize?
Because of pride, the pride is there. Oh, me? I can never do anything wrong. Hello? I am perfect. How can I do anything wrong? It's impossible. It has to be the other person who is at fault, right? Like, if remember, I had given that example. I am sick. I go to the doctor, gives me 3 medicines. I come home and I look at my family. Who can I give this medicine to? Okay, you take red, you take yellow, you take green, because you are sick. I am not sick. No, I am sick. I need to take that medication. So, accepting, yes, I am proud. I'm proud of who I am. I'm proud of my achievements, and then work on it. What is there to be proud about? There's nothing. I am just a ordinary living entity. Prabhupada says, imagine in this whole creation, out of all those planets, in one planet, out of that one planet, so many continents, in so many continents, so many countries, there are so many states and so many cities and so many counties. And in that one county, there are so many homes, subdivisions, in one subdivision, so many homes. In that one home, I am that one small living entity. What is there to be proud about, right? So it's the pride that restricts us from accepting our own faults and finding faults in others. Okay?
Thank you, Mataji.
Mataji, can I
I
ask
have
a
a,
question?
go ahead, Mataji.
Sorry. Mataji, here in text 38, it shows that it mentions about goddess Devi. So I don't know which goddess Devi it's mentioning about, Mataji?
About Uma, because she was with Lord Shiva, right?
Oh,
Talking about,
okay.
yes, he's continuing to talk about Markandeya Rishi to Uma. He's glorifying the devotee.
Okay, and in text 36, when benediction is given to Markandeya Muni by Lord Shiva, he gives fame, freedom from old age and death. But this was already there, right? He already had this. He was already living for so many years and he was not getting old, right? He was already having this benediction.
Yeah, but he gave him like forever, kind of. Okay, that's why in the end it says that he's still around, right? Markandeya Rishi is still around. You see,
Okay.
so it was like forever. I don't know whether that's benediction or not, to be living forever, but being in a pure state, being a pure devotee of the Lord. Pure devotee of the Lord doesn't care, living or dead, here or there, it doesn't matter at all. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Mataji, I have a question.
Yes.
So when you said about the these
What?
the Bhakti,
Hari Bhakti,
Hari Bhakti,
Prasad, Harinam.
Prasad, like what are those?
Oh, okay, very nice. So you know about prasad, right? Rasagullas and gulab jamuns, right? That is Hari Prasad. So eating Hari Prasad, Harinam is chanting the holy names of the Lord. And Hari Bhakti is these 9 processes of devotional service where we hear, we chant, we remember, worship, offer prayers, right? So that is Bhakti Yoga. So that is what it is, that we should always be conscious of Lord Krishna. Okay?
Okay, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji.
Okay, Mataji. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you. Go ahead, Subala.
I'm good, Mataji. I answered my question. So,
Oh, you got the answer to your question?
yes, Mataji.
Okay. So if there are no more questions, we will conclude and we'll meet next Saturday, okay? Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.